I thank the chairman for to ask this short second or make a couple points. I appreciate the chairman. I was going to go right where Chairman Chaffetz was at with this idea of below cabinet level. Mr. Turley, you're right. It does ignore the modern regulatory state, and we're not just talking about any old agency. This is probably the one agency that the American people have to deal with more than any other. This is the Internal Revenue Service. So, yeah, I think that just misses the fundamental fact of the world we live in today. I just want to finish with this and maybe ask Mr. McCarthy. I can't remember which of you on the panel said this, but I think you said there were three basic elements: the gravity of the offense, the culpability of the person that we're looking into, and then the duty of Congress. When you look at those three elements, the gravity of the offense, I always come back to this. They went after people's First Amendment, free speech, political speech. When the founders put together the First Amendment, I think they were mostly focused on your ability to speak in a political nature and not be harassed and targeted for doing so. That was the underlying offense. Then we have Mr. Koskinen, who allows documents to be destroyed and gives false and misleading testimony to the Congress. So when I think about the gravity of both of those offenses, the culpability, he allowed documents to be destroyed that were central to the investigation. Would you, Mr. Turley, Mr. McCarthy, think those two elements then warrant the action we're seeking to take?
Well, what I would suggest is that, first of all, the underlying allegation created a legitimate investigation for this committee. If you're suggesting that the IRS was effectively weaponized against political opponents, that is an exceptionally dangerous type of precedent. Even President Obama acknowledged that. Did this committee have absolute right to the documents that it sought? Clearly. Was the refusal of those documents to the committee a basis to investigate for obstruction? Clearly. If this committee believes that a witness came in and lied to it and obstructed its investigation, then those have the gravity required for impeachment. It turns a lot on what you believe to be the nature of his actions. Was it just simple negligence, or was it intentional, or was it an act of willful blindness? Or deliberate indifference. All of those are...
It sure seems willful when he waits 4 months to tell us that they can't get us the information we asked for, and that was under subpoena.
Well, that certainly helps the House, because nothing concentrates the mind so much as a subpoena. And normally, you don't get a sort of passive-aggressive response. You have to comply with the subpoena.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah, I would just say that the third element plays in here, and that is that you have an obligation constitutionally, because really nobody else can, to check executive abuse of power, overreach. And if you allow a situation where an agency like the IRS is weaponized against political opponents of the administration, and you allow a situation where when you ask for relevant information that you're entitled to have from the executive branch, they either provide you with false information or they obstruct justice, you either have to act or you are basically greenlighting that conduct. You know, people like me in the peanut gallery can rant and rave and do whatever, but we're not in a position to be a counterweight to the executive branch. It's a great power that Congress has, but it's also a profound responsibility, because what hangs in the balance is whether our framework of government works.
Well said. I want to thank the panel, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.